Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Q Programming. We are going to be continuing to discuss the sample question paper released by CBSE for Computer Science, and today we'll be discussing section B. So let's get into it. So let's look at question number 26. It says that t equals to 100 and there's a bracket around 100, which is fine. It just makes it an integer. This is not a tuple, because if you want to define it as a tuple, you will have to do t equals to 100 comma. This would make it a tuple, not this. So a lot of people would get confused in this question and wonder if this is the correct answer, because if you do times 2 of a tuple, it just repeats itself. But no, in this case it is an integer, so it will simply perform integer multiplication and it will be 200. So 26 is C. 27. Suppose the content of myfile.txt is twinkle twinkle little star, however, okay, so it's this rhyme, right? What will be the output of the following code? Myfile equals open myfile.txt. This is, we know by default, read mode, right? Data equals myfile.read lines. So it will put all of these in a list, this entire string in a list, and same for this line, same for this line. It's one entire list with many strings inside it. So it starts here and it just comma, one more string here, and like that. So these 4 lines are put in one list, and each line is a different element of the same list. So it's asking, if data stores that list which contains all the lines, what is the length of that list, which is indirectly asking you how many lines does the file have. And it's evident there are 4 lines, so it's B. 28. Identify the output of the following Python statements. So X is a nested list, which is 10.0, 11.0, 12.0, one list, and 13.0, this is another list. So we want Y is equal to X1, 2. So X1 is this entire part is X1. And because this is X0, this entire list is X0, so this entire list is X1. This is the second element, which is the first index. And of X1, we want the second index value. So 0, 1, 2. So the value we're looking for is 15.0. And that would be your option number D, 28, because we have printed Y. Alright. 29. Identify the output of the following Python statements. X equals to 2. While x is less than 9, print x and no end after that, and x equals to x plus 1. So x will have the value 2, and after that it will have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it will not reach 9 because x less than 9 is a false boolean statement, and it will only run as long as x less than 9 is a true boolean statement. So it will run for these values of x, so it will print 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that should be option number C. Alright, question number 30. Identify the output of the following Python statements. B equals 1. For A in range 1 to 10 in steps of 2, B plus equals to A plus 2. So observe, what are the values A can take? A can take the value 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. That's the last value it can take. Am I right? And B is equal to 1. So over here B gets added to 3 because we've done B plus equals to A plus 2. So B is equal to B plus A plus 2. This is how it's getting reassigned each time. So for A equals to 1, it's going to become B equals to B plus 3. So it will become 1 plus 1 plus 2, which is 4. So now after the first iteration, the value of B is 4. In the next one iteration, where the value of A is 3, A plus 2 has value 5. So we'll do 4 plus 5, which is 9. Here we'll do 9 plus 5 plus 2, 7, which is 16. Here we'll do 16 plus 7 plus 2, which is 9. So that's 25. And here we'll do 25 plus 9 plus 2, which is 11. That makes 36. And 36 is what the final value of b is. So remember, each time the value of b is getting added to itself, we're redefining b as b plus a plus 2. So each time I've added a plus 2 to the previous value of b. So the initial value of b was 1, then it became 4 after a equals 1, then a equals 3, a equals 5, a equals 7, a equals 9. And these are the possible values a can take because that is the loop. So the final answer should be 36, which is option number C. Alright, so in question number 31, they have declared a list with these elements and we're using the insert function 2 times. So in the insert function, the first parameter that's passed is the index value and the second parameter that's passed is the value that's to be inserted. So naturally it will just insert the element 4 at index 3 of this list. So after applying this, the status of the list becomes, because if you like see the index positions, this is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3 and index 4, right? So at index 3, the element 4 will be inserted. So it will become 20, 4, 25, 30 and the remaining elements after that are pushed forward. So this is your new list now. So these are the new index values. Now, based on these new index values, we are inserting the element 2, we are inserting the element 3 at index 2. So over here, at index 2, we are inserting 3. So it will become 10, 15, 3, 20, 4, 25 and 30, right? And since we want list minus 5, that's the value that we want to extract. So just write the negative indexes below it. And we are left with 3. So that is your answer. It is B. 32. So Raghav is trying to write a object1 equals to tuple 1 2 3 4 5 and a binary file test.bin. Consider the following code written by him. So import pickle and then you define this tuple, alright, and then my file is equal to open and in write binary mode. So now what should be here? So the dump function in the pickle module will be written like, so pickle dot dump, and then first you write the name of the object that you're putting in your file, and then you write the file identifier, which is my file. So whichever option has this is your correct answer. So object1 comma my file, which is option B. Options 33. The content of binary files employees.dat is shown where the header is not part of the content, i.e. only row 1 to row 5 are present in the file. So only these things are present in the file. Alright. So we have this code. So before we read that, let's just quickly see what the code is saying. When the above mentioned function display 103 is executed, the output displayed is 1,90,000. Which of the following statements should be used in the blank space of the line marked as line 1 to obtain the above output? So we want 1,90,000 to be displayed, right? So now let's see what this code is actually doing. So display function has this one parameter ino, which is, so first what it does is opening the binary file in read binary and it defines a variable tot sum, which I'm assuming means total sum is 0. So now it's using a try except block. So while true, it will read the pickle.load f, and if r0 equals to eno, then it will have to do something, and then total sum is equal to total sum plus r2. So r will actually be some form of an iterable, maybe a tuple, maybe a list, and it's multiple of these stored inside the file, right? So it will be something like 101 Anuj 50,000, and each of these records are stored in this manner, suppose, and each of these records are being picked up one by one. So if R0 equals to ENO, and ENO's value here is 103, so let's observe this. 103 only come over here, and when that's the case, it should do something. Otherwise, the total sum is equal to TOT sum plus R2, and R2 would be this value, 50,000, right? So now look at it carefully. We want the sum 1,90,000. So let's try adding up all the values before 100, these values, and let's see what happens. So what is the total sum of all the salaries? You have 50,000 plus 40,000, that's 90,000, 1,20,000, 1,80,000, and then 2,20,000, right? This is the sum of all the salaries. But if we remove this row, then if we remove the 30,000, then we have 1,90,000, which is what we are actually expecting. And that is the output we need. So basically, we want row 3 to not be included while adding the total sum. Am I right? So that means whatever we write over here needs to exit this while true loop or exit this iteration and move to the next iteration so that you can add row 4 and row 5 and not row 3. So that would mean that we want to just make it continue, and the statement for that is continue. So it's option C. Alright, this is a slightly tricky question. Take your time to understand it. Just understand that row 3 is to be excluded because the sum after adding all the salaries and removing the amount in row 3, you get what the output is expecting. Alright. Now, question 34. Find the output of the following Python code. Def add num1 num2 sum equals to num1 plus num2. Alright. So what is happening here? We have defined a variable sum which is add 20 comma 30. But now think about it. Will this variable sum actually take any value? Because now the question you need to ask yourself is this returning any value? It is not returning any value. You don't see the return statement anywhere, right? So don't think that this it will return 20 plus 30, which is 50, which is a trick option here. Do not do that. That is completely wrong because it is not returning any value. So by default it returns run. It returns none type, the none type data type, right? So if it returns none, then sum will have value none, which means it will be option D. 35. Evaluate the following expression and identify the correct answer. Alright, so we'll solve it step by step. So first thing, the first order of business is parenthesis, and let's solve this exponential too. So 16 minus 4 plus 2 is 6 times 5 plus 2q, which is 8 times 4. Simplify this further, 16 minus 30 plus 32. Now I'm sure you can do it from this point. It is 16 plus 2, which is 18. So that leaves us with option C. So the key rule I've applied in using this question is the basic mathematical rule that we all learn when we start learning the basic arithmetic operations, which is PEDMAS. So first deal with parentheses, then deal with exponentials, and then the rest, right? So first we dealt with this parenthesis and this exponential, then we dealt with everything else. And Python also happens to follow the PEDMAS rule that we have learned as children. Alright, 36. Find what will be the output of the following code. So def my function, and it has two default arguments, var1 is 100 and var2 is 200. Alright. So var1 is added by 10 and var2 is subtracted by 10, and it returns var1 plus var2. Alright. So what will happen when it's called with 50, and what will happen when it's just called without any arguments? So when it's called with 50, this is the value that's given to var1 because that is the first one, and the second value of var2 will automatically get 200, right? So then in this case var1 will become var1 plus 10, which will make it 60 after this. Am I right? And var2 will become 200 minus 10, 190. So var1 plus var2 will become 250. So already we can see that option A and B are not correct. Now we just need to see whether the second one is 75 or 300. So without calling it with any arguments, we know the default value will be 100 and 200. So in this case, var1 will become 100 plus 10, which is 110. And var2 will become 200 minus 10, which is 190. So the sum would be 300, right? So that leaves us with option D. This was a fairly easy question. You just need to understand how default arguments work in Python functions, right? Alright, 37. What will be the output of the following code? So value equals 50. So see, remember what the flow of execution is. First this line will run, then this line, and when this display function is called, then we will look at this. So without batting an eye at the function definition, let's just understand what is happening at first. So the value is a variable we defined as 50, alright, just ignore this function for now. Print value and ended with a hashtag. So the initial starting of the output is 50 hashtag. Whatever comes will come after this. Now display 20. Now we go up here and display n. So n equals to 20 obviously. And global value, so this variable we defined outside the function is global, so if we change it, its value actually changes outside, which is immediately what's done in the very next step. We change this value to 25. Okay, if n is divisible by 7, this is what it means, right? Divisible. So is 20, if 20 divisible by 7? No, it's not. So obviously the else will be given control, and if the else is given control, value will become value minus n. So 25 minus 20, so it will get the value 5, and then we are printing value again, so it will become 50 hashtag 5, which is option number B. Alright, which of the following options can be the output of the following code? Okay, so import random, we define a list which has 4 cities written: Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, for y in range 4. So y can take values 0, 1, 2, 3. X is equal to random not random 1, 2, 3. Now y will take these values one by one consecutively, but x can be 0, 1, 2, not 0, my bad. It can be 1, 2 or 3, any of these randomly. And print list x and equals to hashtag. So now what the question is, of this code, which of these can possibly be an output? So if it's running 4 times, naturally 4 things should be printed with hashtags at the end of them. So this option is out of the way. Now let's analyze the 3 remaining options. So my advice is, whenever you see a question, always try to use elimination to just rule out the option which you know cannot be. Then focus on the ones which you know can be, in which case we have decided that option A, B and C can be, right? So for I in range 4, x is a random value from 0 to from 1 to 3, right? So if it can be 1, so if I want to print list x, so Delhi is 0, Mumbai is 1, Chennai is 2 and Kolkata is 3. These are the index values, right? So that would mean that x can take any value from 1 to 3 and it's printing those indexes. Doesn't that mean that it can't actually print Delhi ever? Because it's never taking the value 0. So also that immediately rules out option A and option C. We are just left with option number B, because Delhi is coming here and here, but x can never be 0. Remember that. In this case, x is taking values 1, 2, 3 and 1, which is fine. It can take any of these 3 values at random. So this can be an output. Delhi, wherever you see it, cannot be, and this doesn't have a hashtag in the end, again, cannot be. Alright? So try to understand how I used elimination to solve this instead of actually sitting down to solve it, because that is actually much easier in this case. So what is the output of the following code? So they've defined a function change val mn. So right, like I said, find where the function is being called, then look at the function. Don't look at it now. Just go with the flow of execution of the program. We have a list defined with 4 numbers, alright, and then we use the change val function with L and 4, and L and 4 become M and N obviously. So M is 25, 8, 75, 12 and N is 4. So for I in range n, so I will take values we know 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Consecutively, one after the other. That's how the for loop works. If mi is divisible by 5, mi you should set it to be you should divide it, you should do floor division on it by 5. Otherwise, if it's divisible by 3, you should do floor division on it by 3. Fair enough. So first let's do I equals to 0. So if I is equal to 0, then 25 is divisible by 5, great. So we divide it by 5. So let's just write our new list right now. So it's divisible by 5, it so is. So we will just write 5 over here because 25 divided by 5 is 5. Now comes 8. 8 is neither divisible by this nor this, so it's just unaffected. It stays the way it is. Now comes 75. Now 75 is divisible by 5. So firstly, it will become 75 floor division 5, which is equal to 15, right? Now, the thing is, over here, this condition is also holding true. And this is not elif, remember that. So that means that this will also run. It's just two consecutive if statements. So a lot of people will make this mistake that they won't actually consider this part of the code because they've already divided by 5 here. But now you have to divide it by 3 again because this is also here and it's not an elif. So this will execute, right? And if it will execute, then after dividing 15 by 3, if you get 5 again. And 12 is only divisible by 3, so you get 4. So for I and L, print I and equals a hashtag, so it will become 5, 8, 5, 4. And that is option number B. 40. So suppose the content of my file.txt is this. So, alright, what will be the output of the following code? My file equals open this file, and this is by default read mode, right? Record equals to myfile.read.split. Okay, so you just split every single word separately. Good enough. Print len record. So basically, this split will just split it'll just put all the words separately in a list, right? List with words separated because the default parameter for split is an empty space, right? So you should know this by now how the split function works. So after this, it's going to put every single record, every single word in a separate list. So we just have to count the number of words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. So that should be option number C. You just have to count the number of words in this. It's very indirectly asking you to do that because you have to print the length of this list. So it's C. Alright, 41. This seems like a rather long question. Let's do it. So name equals to Python with this 3 at the rate 1, some are capitalized, some are not, and R is an empty string. And at the end, we can see we have to print R. So something is happening in R which is getting redefined as a string again and again. So for x in range len name, so x is going to take all the index values from 0 to the length of this minus 1. If name x dot is upper, then r plus equals to name x dot lower. So if it's upper, just add the lower version of it. So let's just write our string r, how it keeps building up. So first you have a small p, and if it's lower, then you just write the upper version of it. That means for all of these, you just have to write the upper versions of those strings. Then for the n again, you go to this part and it becomes lower. Then if it's a digit, then you add the one before it. So if it's a digit, you have to go to an index before it and add that, okay? And if it's neither of these, you add a hashtag. So for that, it will come out as a hashtag. And for the one, since it's a digit, you have to add the one before it. You just have to write at the rate. And that is your output. Quite strange, but yeah, that is your output. So compare your options carefully. I would say Python. Yep, it looks like it's option B. 42. And okay, one more thing. For these kind of questions, it's always useful to write down your output. Don't try to do it in your head because the options seem pretty close. Right? Write down what you're thinking, like the way I've written it here. Build up the string one by one and think of your thought process that if it's upper, add the lower. If it's lower, add the upper. If it's a digit, add an element before it. And if it's neither of these, which is like special characters, add a hashtag. See the string building up and write it down. Write each step down. That way you'll never lose track of what's going on. Suppose the content of myfile.txt is this. Honesty is the best policy. Of course it is. What will be the output of the following code? MyFile equals to open this again in read mode, read everything, so this reads the entire content, print lenx and close the file. Alright, so you just have to find the length of the string. That's not too hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Remember, you have to count spaces and full stop. After that, I'm getting 27, which is option number D. Okay. So for 43. Suppose the content of myfile.txt is this Humpty Dumpty poem. Okay. What will be the output of the following code? So you open it in read mode, you read it and you put everything in lower, alright? So all these capitalized letters will become small, good enough. And now in this X, you want to count the number of times this substring occurs. So remember, everything is lowered. So just visualize it in your mind that every single character in this is lowered, whatever is upper, and if it's lower, no change in it. And you have to count the number of times this substring occurs. So that's fairly easy. You have one here, one here, one here, here, here. I think I've counted all of them. And remember, the uppercase doesn't matter because we've already lowered it. So I see these 5 occurrences of this substring umpty, which is going to be option D. Alright, 44. What will be the output of the following code? X equals to 3. So print x and equals to this, so this will print 3. Then call this function, and in this x is global, so it makes x 5, and it prints x as well, so 5. And then it's going to print x again, so 5, 3, 5, 5. Option D. 45. So the content of myfile.txt is this. What will be the output of the following code? MyFile equals to this, vowels list is equal to all the vowels, good enough. And vowel count, which I'm assuming is the long form of VC, is 0. So X is myfile.read, so it reads everything in this file. And when you loop through this string that it read, if y in vowel list vowel count plus equals to 1, so we just have to indirectly count the number of vowels in this. That's not too hard. You have E, A, A, E, A, A. Have I missed any? Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 7. So 45 is B. 7. 46. Suppose the content of myfile.txt is twinkle twinkle little star. What will be the output of the following code? My file is open, this file, alright. Line count equals to 0. Data equals myfile.read lines, so it will put every single line in a list of lines, right, of the file. For line in data, if line 0 equals t, so all of these elements are put in, all of the lines are put in a string, and all these lines are put in a list, one list, sorry, my bad, and a list, like you can imagine that, and each of these are strings. So if line 0 equals to t, line count plus equals to 1, so there's small t in this first line and in this last line. So only these two will get counted, and since line count plus equals to 1 is happening 2 times, the value of line count will be 2. So 46 must be A. 47. Consider the following directory structure. So look at this. So we have the main folder school, which has 3 subfolders: academics, examinations, sports. And this has this file, this has this file, this has this file. Alright. Suppose the root directory, school, and present working directory are the same. Alright. What will be the absolute path of syllabus.jpg? So from school, we go to academics, and from academics, we go to syllabus. So school, academics, syllabus.jpg. It should be option B, because we just went from school to academics to syllabus. Just follow the path that's happening. And since we're asking for absolute path, and this is the root directory, so in your computers, usually the root directory is C. So you write C, then users, suppose I'm Arjun, so Arjun, then desktop and whatever. So it is something on that line only. School, academic, syllabus.jpg. Alright, 48. Suppose the content of myfile.txt is this. What will be the type of data rec? So data rec is myfile.read lines. And if it's reading all the lines, then we just want it to be a list. This will be a list. It's a list of lines, right? And if it's a list of lines, it should be option B, 48, B. 49. What will be the output of the following code? Tuple 1 is this. Tuple 1 of index 2 of index 1 is 3.14. So print the tuple, okay? So first mark all the indexes, 0, 1, this entire thing is 2, then 3, right? And of the second element, which is this list, you want to modify the first one, which is 2, remember 0, 1, and you want to make it 3.14. So we can actually modify this list. Now you might say that tuple is immutable, but list is mutable, right? And the list is put inside a tuple, so we can edit the list that way. So 1, 2, and then that list becomes 1, 3.14, 3. And that would be option number B. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you revise and understand the sample question paper released by CBSE for the first term boards. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing to our channel and stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you very much.